Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1. In this video I will be reviewing all of Strange New Worlds Season 1. So I'll have to start with the spoiler warning for the entirety of Season 1 of Strange New Worlds. If you have not seen the whole thing, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, if you've seen my reviews or any reviews or anything, you know how much I love Strange New Worlds. In fact, it's been very well received overall, and they said that this might in fact change the course of the Star Trek franchise, that shows may start going more in this direction, that is being more hopeful, optimistic, and also a more sort of episodic rather than serialized storytelling, not focused so much on the season-long mystery, not just trying to be a 10-hour episode or a 10-hour movie. Now, here's the thing, and this is what I want to address first of all, because yes, we love Strange New Worlds. I love Strange New Worlds. It's clearly the best new Star Trek show that's come out since Enterprise. Probably, so far, it's better than Enterprise. Certainly had a better first season than Enterprise. Although Enterprise Season 3 and 4 was great, but if this show continues to be this great, then it's definitely going to surpass Enterprise. Because the Enterprise was like half and half, 2 bad seasons, 2 good ones. But anyway, it's definitely one of the best seasons of Star Trek, one of the best Star Trek shows that's come out since Discovery started. That's all pretty well agreed upon. But the thing I wanted to address is that this notion I've been hearing from a lot of other reviewers is that when they talk about how great Strange New Worlds is, they often bring up the fact that it's episodic. And it's like, well, this is a return to episodic storytelling. And that's why they mention that is why it's so great, is because it is episodic as opposed to Discovery and Picard, which are not. Now, that kind of talk actually scares me a bit, and I don't like it, and I don't agree with it. First of all, I want to dispel this notion that Strange New Worlds is episodic and not serialized. I don't think that it is. It is not serialized in the same way that Picard and Discovery are, but it definitely is. Because you have a through character stories, several of them. The main one being with Pike and his grappling with his impending doom, but you also have Una and her discovery that she's an Elysian who's genetically enhanced and thus defying Starfleet by being in Starfleet. You have a recurring storyline with M'Baga's daughter being sick and trapped in being held in transporter suspension in order to prolong her life. You have a prolonged storyline of La'an's backstory of her being traumatized by the Gorn and how that informs her decision, her having to confront those. You got an ongoing storyline with Spock being confronted with his humanity and grappling with what it means to be half Vulcan, half human. And you got a prolonged storyline with Uhura trying to decide her place in the world. Is Starfleet right for her? So all these are serialized stories that happen throughout the entire season. Now, each episode has its own plot, and it's not just a chapter in the book or a scene from a 10-hour movie, like say Picard, in particular, Picard Season 2, the issue is that it was way too long. It was a 2-hour movie stretched over 10 hours. And which is one of the many reasons why Picard Season 2 failed. There were so many others, but I won't get into that here. But yes, it's not that. Each episode has its own different focus. You have the first episode that focuses on a first contact situation where a species is about to destroy itself and Pike has to break the Prime Directive to stop it. Second episode where there's a comet about to destroy a species and there's another alien who has a religious reverence for the comet and doesn't want Pike to stop it. Then you got another episode that's about a virus that plagues the Enterprise in Uno's past could unhold the answer to solving it. You got another episode where the Enterprise is constantly in danger from the Gorn and looks like it's going to be destroyed, and Pike has to use his wits to get them out of this situation. You got another episode where Spock swaps body with T'Pring and sort of realizes and becomes more aware of what it's like to be her. And then the next episode, you have this mystery of this world where this young boy who's going to be the ruler or the king is constantly being attacked by a separatist group. And then you have another episode where the Enterprise searches for innocent colonist ship while pirates try to abduct and destroy the Enterprise. And then you have another episode where God, what is episode 8? Oh, episode 8, where the Enterprise turns into a fantasy world, and as all the characters start emulating characters from a book. And then you have a horror episode where the members of the crew or landing party are trapped and being hunted by Baby Gorn. And then you have an episode where Pike time travels into a possible future to be shown why he shouldn't follow that future and should accept his fate. So each episode does focus on something entirely different story, and you couldn't outline it that for sure, particularly Picard season 2, but even shows like most seasons of Discovery, that while there are different focuses on each plot in Discovery. You could say, season 2, for example, you say this episode focuses on Tilly being trapped in the Marcellia, and this episode focuses on Saru trying to free his people from oppressive species, and then this episode focuses on, Burnham going to rescue Spock from Section 31. So they do the same thing with other serialized shows, which is kind of my point. That this show is serialized, but in a different way, because even if you look at shows like, say, Breaking Bad or Lost, for example, Lost definitely has a different focus in every episode. It focuses on the character's backstory, a particular part of the island, but if you look at it as a whole, it is telling one story, and that's what Strange New Worlds is doing. Even it may be more, each episode may be more standalone than, say, something like Discovery or Picard, but that doesn't make it not serialized. And here's the thing, and this is why I bring this up, is because serialization in Star Trek is good, and episodic storytelling in Star Trek is bad. And that is my official stance, has always been my stance, and so I don't like people pointing out the episodic nature of Strange New Worlds to say that's why the show's better. Because it's not episodic, it is serialized. It just does a better job at being serialized than Discovery and Picard did. The problem isn't serialization, the problem is that Picard and Discovery didn't handle it correctly. Particularly Discovery relied way too heavily on the mystery box, the mystery of the season, and that often was to the detriment of the season. And season 4 in particular was a very strong season of Discovery. They just stretched it out over way too many episodes, where it should have been like a 3 or 4-parter, really. But those are issues with those shows. That doesn't have to do with the serialization inherently, because I think Star Trek's at its best when it's serialized. Now, which is probably why the original series is one of my least favorite, or probably my least favorite of them, because the original series was one of the only true episodic shows of the Star Trek franchise where you really did hit that reset button hard, and you could watch the original series in any order and still get the same enjoyment out of it. And that's the whole thing. It's the whole nature and it's the whole purpose of episodic TV telling. So audiences can tune in any week without having seen any previous episodes and enjoy the episode by itself. And I would argue you can't do that with Strange New Worlds. That if you watch these episodes out of order, it would not have the same impact. That you need to watch in order because it does have continuous storytelling. In fact, if you miss a couple episodes, say you didn't see the first couple episodes that dealt with Pike's fear of this impending future he knows is going to happen, and you just tune in and watch the finale, you still may enjoy the finale, but it's just not going to have as big of an impact on it. And I would argue a lot of Next Generation, because I just made this statement that original series was the only episodic, and well, what about Next Generation? Next Generation wasn't allowed to be serialized, but they got away with it. There was definitely a lot of serialized storytelling in Next Generation, even though the nature of it was mostly episodic, definitely more so than Strange New Worlds. But you had ongoing storylines with Worf's discommendation, you had ongoing storylines with Barclay, you had ongoing storylines with Q, you had ongoing storylines with Troy, like her relationship with Riker was totally different in season 1 than it was in season 7. And that's a good thing. And that's why Next Generation is great. And Deep Space Nine, of course, went full on into serialization in its final 2 seasons, which was the best part of the show. As an Enterprise, was always had a great, strong sense of continuity, which was the best thing about that episode, even through its that show, even through its horrible first 2 seasons. At least that was my one thing I latched on to. At least one thing happened in one episode, like if a Romulan mine destroyed the hull in one episode, and the next episode they had to repair the ship and deal with the consequences. That was the best thing about Enterprise. And then, of course, in the later seasons, when it got really good, is when they really embraced serialization, had a season-long story arc for season 3, and then season 4 had a bunch of 3 or 4-parters that all linked together. So serialization in Trek is a good thing, and I don't want to hear people saying, "Oh, Strange New Worlds proves episodic is better." It's not better, and Strange New Worlds is not episodic. I'm sorry, it just does a better job at serialized storytelling than Picard and Discovery did. And so the issues with Picard and Discovery is not the serialization storytelling. It just didn't do a good job at it. At the long-term story arcs, and it needs to go back and do it better. Because I think the best of Star Trek, like season 3 of Enterprise, one of the best seasons of Star Trek. Season 6 of Deep Space Nine, also one of the best seasons of Star Trek. This is all continuity, string continuity, serialized story. That's when Star Trek is at its best. So I just don't want people taking the wrong lessons from how great Strange New Worlds is. That's all I'm saying. But anywho, now that discussion's out of the way, I thought it may... so let's talk about some of the characters of Strange New Worlds. We had Pike, who Anson Mount is an amazing actor as Pike. Of course, we knew this from Discovery Season 2, and it was such an amazing idea to build a show based off this character, and if the producers are to be believed, this wasn't their original intention. It's something that came about from fan demand. So I think they were actually very wise to listen to the fan demand, because there's a character that fans love, and so why not focus more on that character and give them their own show. He absolutely sells the show. He's amazing, and Pike, I do think. I have a lot of nostalgia for Picard, so I won't say that Pike is the best captain in Star Trek, but he's up there. He's definitely surpasses Kirk for me, despite what the finale tries to tell you. He surpasses Janeway, and even Sisko, because Sisko was a little bit too much of a hard ass. And I love the interpersonal, how Pike listens to his crew. This is what we saw in Discovery Season 2. I love how he has the breakfast, and he gets to know him, and it's very casual, but then when they're in a serious situation, such as in Memento Mori, he knows how to buckle down and how to inspire his crew to perform and give him the stuff that's going to let the ship survive. He's the best captain, and he is the opposite of Jellicoe, who's clearly the worst captain. Jellicoe is a terrible, terrible captain, but I'm not going to get started on that. And there's Spock, I love his character story. And this season, I think it was done extremely well. Like, at first, I was opposed to seeing a different version of Spock, a younger version of Spock in this newer iteration of Star Trek. But Ethan Peck just really sells it, and I think he has become one of the delights. Now, Una Chin Riley, or Number One, is an amazing character played by an amazing actress. She's just underutilized, which was a huge disappointment for me. For this one thing, I hope that season 2 improves upon. Please do not write her off the show. See more of her. She was a great character. When they used her, they just need to use her more often. Then you had Himmer. Again, not used often enough. Amazing character, wasn't used. And then they killed him off. Now, apparently there's rumors he may return in some form or another, but I'm kind of iffy about that. I just don't think they should. I just think killing him off was a mistake and they shouldn't have done it because he was an amazing character. Then there's Uhura, who I'm not that big on her story, to be honest. I don't think it's necessary to have these legacy characters. Although I will echo what another YouTuber said, that the one episode that explored Uhura's backstory did more to flesh out this character than the past 50 years of the franchise did, which is true, which is fair. Like, all of her appearances in the original series didn't really flesh her out, so I do at least appreciate that. And then we have Dr. Mbega, who I loved I think he's it's easy to fall into the cliche of being the compassionate doctor, but they sell it in a way that makes him unique, and I think this actor does a great job of selling his unique personality. And then they had the ongoing story arc with his daughter dying, which really, really helped endear you to this character and his suffering. So I really enjoyed that character as well. You got Ortegas, who at the moment is just a bit of light comic relief, light fun, but she always adds an extra flavor to each episode, so I really love having this character there. I think she does add something to the show eventually. Again, this is something later seasons need to flesh her character out a bit more to make her more than just simply the quippy navigator, but already I like her way better than Tom Paris, I will say that. And then there's La'an, who, again, I think the show focused more on La'an than Number One, which, again, I think they should focus more on Number One. But they did a great job of fleshing out her character, her backstory. They made she had her troubled past. She's definitely a dark character. I think in the first episode she came off a little bit cliche when she refused to take the painkiller medicine or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm tough. But then I think later in the season they did a better job of exploring why that is and fleshing her out more so in retrospect justified it. And who else we have? Nurse Chapel, by far my least favorite character of the show. I would love this character so much better if they just said it was a new character and gave her a different name, because it does not compute. It does not match up at all with the Nurse Chapel we've seen in the original series, who was, to be honest, a flat, boring, and just a 60s version of a woman who just pines after men, which we do not need in the modern era. And they didn't do it, but it just doesn't connect. This character is not Nurse Chapel, and it's trying to fit it into canon just breaks my brain. So that I really wish they would have just created a new character and said this is a new character. So that is the biggest issue I have with bringing back these legacy characters. Spock, actually, what they did with him works. And Vega, he barely appeared in the original series, so bringing him back is fine. And Uhura, as I said, they actually managed to flesh out this character more because she was not fleshed out before. But Nurse Chapel, it's not even the same character, so it kind of, it breaks my brain to try to fit this into canon. Alright, so now that we've done the characters, I thought it might be fun to go through the episodes and rank them, since these episodes are quote-unquote episodic. Not really, but kind of. It might be fun to... I could easily rank these from my least favorite to my favorite. So we'll start with my least favorite episode of the season. And that's the episode 6, Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, where they had this mystery of this child who's trying... these people were trying to assassinate this child, and Pike had this love interest, which I didn't appreciate that storyline. It felt too Kirk-like. And I call it, it's a narrative sheet to be like, oh, here's a woman they have had a prior relationship to, so this explains why they're in love all of a sudden, because they had all this history that happened off screen. I don't like that. I think that's a cheat. And I don't think it was necessary for the story or for Pike's character, but more to the point, having the mystery box of this episode be the big shocking twist at the end is that the kid is actually not going to be the ruler of the world, but he's just going to be like sacrificed and killed in order for everyone else to live in luxury. I think the episode would have been way better off had we been given that information up front, because a lot of these other characters' actions don't really make any sense. Because they withheld that information. Like, for example, the doctor, the father of the kid, like, his intention was to save the kid's life. Why didn't he just fucking tell Pike from the very beginning? It makes no sense why he wouldn't. So they should have actually, and it would have been much better, interesting episode. The moral dilemma would have worked a lot better had they just not tried to pull one out over us and just been upfront for the very start of the episode what was going on. So that's why that was my least favorite. My second least favorite would be episode 7, The Serene Squall. This episode had now a lot of people complained about the guest actress who played Captain Angel. I really liked her. I thought she did an amazing performance. I had no issue with her, and the fact that she was non-binary, I think, was really cool and just adds to the flavor of the episode. If you're complaining about that, you're probably a bit prejudiced. Sorry to say, but so that's not why I didn't have any issues with that. The issues I had with this episode was, it started off really good. It had a really strong plot where it seemed like the Enterprise is similar to Memento Mori, where the Enterprise was up against a really difficult to defeat foe, a really impossible situation, and we're trying to save some colonists. But then it turns out these impossible to beat, very witty, very ruthless pirates were a bunch of morons, and all Pike had to do was like play the underlings against each other, which is a cliche I hate. I absolutely cannot stand this cliche where you have stupid underlings and they're taken captive, and all they do is like play on how stupid they are and get them to fight amongst each other. This is done in like the Voyager episode Renaissance Man, which I fucking hate that, and the Enterprise one with the Ferengi when they did that. It's a lazy cliche, and I didn't find it fun or funny. it just annoys the fuck out of me, and really it undermined like the whole like seriousness of the episode of how, this is a big threat, but they're not a threat, they're just a bunch of morons. And then the reveal that I can't remember what her original name was, but the counselor turned out to be the captain, the evil pirate. I actually liked this character a lot better before they revealed that she was evil. I think making her evil, she came off as more of a cliche mustache twirly villain to me, and she was much more interesting, and the power dynamics or the character dynamics between her and Spock were way more interesting to me before they revealed that. So I don't know, I'm open to seeing this character return as a villain in the future. I just think this episode in particular would have been better off had they not fallen into that trap. But I do like the reveal of Cybok. I think it's finally cool that they're bringing him back. So anyway, next episode, which I suppose would be number 8 out of 10 on this list, would be All Those Who Wonder, the horror episode that decided to be just like Aliens. Like, it was cool and all, like, and it was shot well, it was acted well, and it was scary, and it had this side plot of like Spock having to embrace his rage and not being able to suppress it again, which I thought was done really well. the main plot just was relied too heavily on horror cliches, and particularly being like the movie Aliens. It's just like each character is like a different character from Aliens, and the fact that they even had the Gorn babies, they made them like pop out of people just like the Xenomorph does. Like, come on, that is ridiculous. That is too unoriginal. Try to be a bit more original than that, and just copying Aliens for fuck's sake. Anyway, so then we'll get into my number 7, where the show starts getting a lot better for me. God, what would I even put as my number 7? I guess I should have thought of this ahead of time. Oh, jeez. I think my number 7 is going to be Children of the Comet. And yeah, so as I said, the season overall has got 3 not terrible episodes, but kind of not good, kind of average episodes, but there's 7 really great ones. And so the Children of the Comet comes in at number 7, even though it's a really great episode. It just speaks to how highly this season is. It's a great character exploration for horror. It's a great, I love how Pike has to deal with this irrational religious species, but he eventually finds a way to placate the religion and save the lives of the civilization that's in danger. Like, that was a cool storyline for me. So this is a strong episode, and again, it speaks very highly that this is at number 7. But even after that, you got my number 6, which again is a really amazing episode, a great episode. In fact, a lot of people say this episode is the best of the season. For me, I maybe don't like it as much because I put it at number 6, and that's Memento Mori, when Pike and the Enterprise is in constant threat, constant danger of being destroyed, and Pike has to use his wit and rely. Again, this showcased what an amazing Captain Pike is, and how he is able to uphold his crew and give them the strength to help him get out of the situation. That is a good captain, my friends. Not Jellicoe who fucking comes on and changes the shift from 5 to 4 rotation for no good goddamn reason and won't listen to the first officer when he tries to tell him it's a bad idea. But anyway, sorry. Much better captain. Anyway, so that's my number 6, and what an amazing episode that was. So then we get into my number 5, which is episode 5, Spock Amok, which was amazing comedy episodes. Star Trek usually does not do comedy episodes well. It does it so well in this episode. The body swap trope is usually terrible, but actually they use it. They acknowledge the cliche of this by saying, "I do not like hijinks," which is hilarious. And then they use it for the characters who empathize. These two characters who are in a relationship to empathize with each other and see from the other's point of view. And they handled that so well. And even the side plot with Pike negotiating with these aliens was so good. Like, yeah, so this episode had a lot of heart, so I did really appreciate that. So then we'll get into my number 4, an episode that should have had a different title called Strange New Worlds, the premiere episode, which I thought was a very, very strong premiere. I will admit, I think this is the best first episode in the entire Star Trek franchise. I think it did an amazing job of fleshing out the characters, and I was joking with my sister yesterday on the live discussion we did that Pike grew the beard in the first episode. And so that's why the show immediately started out being good, because that's, the cliche is growing the beard is when the show gets good. But anyway, and seeing Pike having to come out of his slump and to rescue number 1, but then realizing that they caused the social strife that's happening on this world, and where Pike declares the fuck with the Prime Directive, we need to save these people because it's our fault they're in danger. It was so powerful. It's so good, and just a great way to introduce these characters, a great way to introduce this camaraderie, just a great first episode. Alright, so then we shall get into my number 3, which is Ghosts of Illyria, which I thought would be my favorite of the season because it was so good. Really liked this episode. Again, this is the episode that showcased Una Chin Riley, number 1, and I wish we got more of it, and she really shined in this episode, having to deal with this virus that was overtaking the ship while Pike and Spock were trapped on the planet. But this episode deals really well with the theme of prejudice and how Pike and Spock were able to, or Pike in particular, was able to overcome his prejudice on Illyrians, and to the point where when he finds out number 1 is an Illyrian, he doesn't give a fuck, and he wants to stand up for her and save her. But then she addresses the fact, well, he is, sticking up for me, but is that only because I'm, such a good first officer? What if I didn't save the crew? Would he still feel the same way? Which is a great question, and it compounds that with a great ending when we find out that M'Baga to reveal that his daughter is stuck in a transporter, and that's what caused the virus in the first place. But then that number 1 is able to show the same empathy to him that Pike showed to her to sort of pay it forward. I thought it was great. I thought this was an amazing episode, and I thought it would be my favorite, but the show outdid it 2 more times, and we'll get into the first time it did, my number 2, the Elysium Kingdom, which this episode's getting a lot of hate, undue hate in my opinion. This is the lowest rated episode on IMDb, and I have no idea why. It does come off on the face of it really silly because it has these characters are in the ship acting like they're in a fantasy world. We see like green shrubbery around in the background and whatnot, and they all act like fantasy characters, which on the face of it is a bit ridiculous, but is handled so well. First of all, the actors have so much fun with this that you can't help but get caught up in the fun with it. Seeing Pike as a schniveling coward and Spock being a big emo wizard, you gotta love that shit. But really, what sells this episode again is the ending, which was so heartbreaking, where they resolved the storyline with M'Baga's daughter, where apparently this alien entity found her suspended in a transporter and didn't really understand what was going wrong around, and didn't understand her, but felt this connection of being lonely, and so wanted to help her, and that's why they created this fantasy world. And she did it for her father, and at the end when he comes and saves her, she's like, "Did you have fun, Daddy?" And I was like, so fucking touching. And then this really showcases the character Himmer and why they fucking shouldn't have killed him off. And where he's the sidekick who's also untouched by this manipulation, is able to not be in this fantasy realm, and the way that he helps M'Baga in that moment where he goes abracadabra and beams everyone. It was such an amazing moment. And then the ending where he sees his daughter return, which for her has been years, and has a grown woman. So hard. That's to me, that is just as touching as episodes like The Visitor. That's exactly what I would compare it to. I really kind of baffles me how this episode apparently is so unpopular when I think it is so good. But we'll get to my favorite episode of the season, which I had already mentioned, proclaimed is probably one of the best. It is one of the best episodes of the entire Star Trek franchise already, and that is A Quality of Mercy, the finale that has Pike traveling forward into a possible future where we get a what if, a balance of terror. What if Pike commanded the Enterprise rather than Kirk? And we see how things don't turn out so well. And this is a great episode, not just because of the nostalgia factor with Balance of Terror, which, don't get me wrong, I fucking love that. But that's not the only reason why. With Trials and Tribulations, the only reason why that episode is good is because of nostalgia. You take nostalgia away, the episode sucks. With this episode, even you take the nostalgia away, it's still an amazing character story. It's still a great episode. It's still a great time travel, alternate reality episode. You have Pike, who knows that this impending doom is coming and it's been lingering over him, and when he meets this young boy who he knows is going to die, he just can't do nothing, so he has to act. He has to do something to change it. But as soon as he starts to, a future version of him comes and say, not a good idea. So powerful. And then he goes to the character and he realizes that if he saves himself, Spock will be sacrificed instead. And he realizes that he is not that selfish, that he would not do that to others, that he needs to accept his fate. Rather than push it off to other people. And it's just such a powerful character story with all this amazing nostalgia and time travel shit thrown into the mix. That is the best of what Star Trek can do. So, that's how I would rank the episodes of Season 1 of Strange New Worlds. Now, my rating for Season 1 of Strange New Worlds out of 10... I wrestled with this one a bit. I wrestled between a 9 and a 10. I think I'm actually going to go a 9. It's a very, very strong 9. If I did 9.5s, I'd give it 9.5s, but I don't. I stick straight with either a 9 or a 10, and that I just the needle goes ever so slightly to a 9, but it's really close to a 10. The reason why I had to take it back from a 10 a little bit is because characters like Nurse Chapel did not work, and it had those 3 episodes kind of in the middle of the season. Well, one was towards the end, but there's 2 episodes in the middle of the season where it kind of slumped, where it didn't work as well as the other episodes. But overall, amazing character stories, amazing acting, again, a great serialized season of Star Trek because it had all the great serialized character stories. So that is it for my review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out my channel as I cover many, many more Star Trek shows, as well as other shows such as Better Call Saul, Westworld, Star Wars Rebels, The Expanse, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.